Hello friends, let's talk about the biggest myth, or is it the perception? You decide. But the myth or the perception is one should not buy a home when the interest rates are very high. You are advised by your elders and also in the media it talks all about how the interest rates are going through the roof and one should not buy the home or it's going to crash. There are many versions of it. So let's talk about first what I went through in the year 2009. My first home actually was bought in 1990 at 11% interest rate, and we refinanced that when the interest rate dropped low to 7.5%. Eventually they dropped to 3%, and when I sold it, believe me, I left with the big chunk of money in our bank, which almost paid our entire down payment for the very nice upgraded home when we bought in 2009. Totally opposite scenario when we bought a home at lowest interest rate, because 2009, as you know, the economy was about to crash but had not yet crashed when we bought the house. It was still at 6% or 5.5%, somewhere there. But within 2 years, we all know what happened to Fannie Mae and Freddie crash. There were so many foreclosures, there was so much of economic adjustment that seriously the rates went down to 2.5%, and every Tom, Dick and Harry rushed and got it refinanced. And that's what you do, is my advice. In both scenarios, regardless of interest rate was higher or lower, we made tons of money. So let's talk about some actual statistics. What I've done here is I've given a chart where my clients bought a home in 2007, and this is the actual scenario. He paid 6.5% in 2007, which was considered really high at that, because we were coming from 3 and 2.5 and 3 and 3.25% interest, right? And suddenly that jump was kind of really hard, but inventory was there and there were so many buyers. Anyways, the interest rate was 6.5% for 4-bedroom home, and they paid $300,000. The rent analysis I'm doing with this to give you the rent amount was at about $1,100, and I'm talking about state of Texas. In 2009, he refinanced, of course, at 2.5%, right? And his mortgage payment went down significantly, and his property value kept rising most of the time at 3 to 5% average. I'm doing a scenario at 3%, and you'll be seeing the chart. The value of the house became in 2 years $318,000, some odd money. Well, he would have paid the rent at that time at $1,216, that normal 1% increase which landlord will always ask tenant to do. In 2015, of course, that interest rate is still the same, and his value of the house became $380,000 some more cents. So you just see how it is growing in value, and he would have paid the rent by now in 2015 $47,000. So just think, had you paid the rent continuously during that time, you would have paid $47,000. Now this will shock you. In 2023, they sold that home at $481,000. He gained $181,000 over a period of 15 years. Okay, had he chosen to stay in a rental property, he would have paid $74,268. Now you will say, hey, $75,000, not a big deal. No, it is a big deal. You invest that money as a down payment on that $400,000 home, and you will gain $181,000 equity, right? Which is your money. Now that $74,000, you say you did not pay the mortgage, right? But you paid a mortgage for your landlord. So think about it. It's not a science or a huge arithmetic problem. It's a common sense to build an equity, walk away in 15 years, paying the same amount or actually less with that refinance done in 2 years. He was paying less than $1,800, where his rent in 2023 would have been $2,300. So any which way you see, rental is just no. Even during a time when your interest rate is high, as everyone says, right? So now let's go to scenario. Let's take a house now, okay? You are buying a house now in 2024. Interest rates are 7%, right? And you bought a home at $400,000 at 7%. comparison, a person, if you had to rent it, that sizable home for your family of 2 children and spouse and you, would pay about $2,800 rent per month. Projected in 2 years, we all know interest rates are going to go down because anything which goes up will come down. It's a law of physics, and we have seen a cycle for decades, right? When something goes up, within 2-3 years, market will adjust and you will refinance within 2 years. So in 2026, 27, whatever, instead of paying a $2,800 or $3,000 rent, you will build an equity on that house of $25,000. In 2032, you will build an equity of $506,000 because now you have been at that lower interest rate. And guess what? In case you do want to sell it in 15 years, which average, of the real estate market tells us either people need more space or less space, depending on the family needs. You will have $623,000 on the $400,000 home. In 15 years, without paying a rent, you built a wealth of $223,000. You would have paid mortgage for somebody else by paying their rent, your landlords. You would have paid by now significant amount, and everything is listed on the table. So guys, there is nothing to think. There is nothing to decide. Anytime, whenever you need a house, it's the right time. When the interest rates are low, doesn't matter. If interest rates are high, within few years, they will get low, but you will build equity regardless. 3 to 5% is an average increase on the value of the home statistically all over in USA. Someone could fall at 3%, someone could fall at 10%. Like where I live in Sugar Land, Texas, right now I've seen as much as 10 to 15% increased value in Sugar Land. Well, what I'm telling you is, if you want to buy a home in Sugar Land, Texas, come on in, contact me. If you want to invest in Sugar Land, Texas, or in Texas anywhere, contact me and you will build wealth. Your return of investment, which pays such a big importance, even when you spend your money on a mutual fund or in your IRA account, right? In this scenario, you will get a diversification and you will have about 55% return of investment based on the math I have projected. This is in my projection. I'm giving you the advice. You still check with your CPA or do your own math through computer, Google help, and you will know yourself. Maybe my percentage are accurate, or little lower or little higher. But either way, you are a winner, and that's my promise. So guys, buy a home when you need it. Do not worry about interest rate. That's the lesson we are going to be learning today. See you next week.